Yo, yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast. I'm super excited about today's conversation and about our guest today because she is the CEO and founder of Shop Latinx, which is the only online lifestyle marketplace exclusively featuring Latinx-owned designers and brands. And on the website, they got everything from home decor, beauty products, clothing, accessories. So if you want to support your community, this is definitely the place to go shop. It's an online marketplace with over 30 brands, possibly more. Just a phenomenal platform that she's created, and we're definitely going to dive into her story, dive into the platform, the marketplace, and some of the steps it took to even build it up. Welcome to the podcast, Brittany Chavez. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I'm so happy that we finally connected in IRL.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for driving out here.
Mm-hmm.
When I first reached out to you, you were transitioning from Portland, Oregon, to New York.
Yeah.
I would love to know, what did you learn about that process, and what did you learn about being in Portland? It's funny because I actually lived in Portland for 10 years.
Wait, really? Did you tell me this?
I don't think I did. So just
were you?
No.
What were you doing out there?
Okay, no.
Why were you there for 10 years?
Okay. So I'll give you a quick.
Okay.
So I moved around a lot growing up.
Okay, it sounds like you've been everywhere.
Everywhere. So all over the West Coast. So I was born in LA. Parents were young when they had me. They didn't want me growing up in that environment. My grandfather was in Portland, Oregon before.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
He was in LA as well, but he wanted to get out of LA, and for some reason they picked Portland.
Okay.
So I think around 3 years old, I ended up moving with my mom to Portland, and then we were there for like 10 years. And then on my 13th birthday, I was in a U-Haul van driving to Sacramento. So this is where our family moved from Portland to Sacramento, and then I stayed there until I was like 19, and then I moved back down to Southern California.
Okay.
Met my wife, and then now we are in Dallas, Texas.
Okay. So I see it all makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
For me, wait, what part of LA are you from?
So I was born in Torrance, but my family's from Inglewood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have some family in Inglewood. But yeah, similar to you, I was born and raised in LA. And I always have lived there, all parts, North Hollywood, Koreatown, Pomona, and then the last place I was living in was Boyle Heights. And this was like during I moved to Portland, Oregon during the pandemic. And I think for me, I had so much personal stuff going on. And I think Portland was the place for me to really experience like a rebirth.
Is there a reason why you picked Portland?
Dude, I was watching like a lot of Portlandia.
Okay.
You know that show?
No.
It's just like a stupid show.
Netflix
but
or something?
I was like watching it. And I guess it just made the most sense because they don't want to go east to the desert. The bay's too expensive. And then I'm like, Portland. I've heard good things about Portland. And I think in hindsight, I really needed to be in nature. I really needed to experience a small town. And I really needed to be somewhere where I didn't know anyone. And back to the healing. So, LA became really chaotic for me, and I feel like so much of myself is spread throughout the entire county, and I just needed like a fresh start. And Portland was that for me. And then I had received venture capital funding, and this was the first time ever in my life where I got to have my own apartment that I was like really proud of, that I got to like decorate, and I got to experience myself no longer being in survival mode. I got weekly therapy, sometimes twice a week. I did healing ceremonies. I met friends. I think in LA it was a little hard for me to make friends. From my experience, it was like a bit transactional, and it was so hard for me to keep up. Where in Portland, it felt like it was like the first time I really even experienced like sisterhood. You know what I mean? And you know, even after work, I would like drive into the forest and I became like a tree hugger. Cause you know, LA, like it's mostly
Yeah.
like palm trees.
Yeah. And even like, not to cut you off,
No, you're fine.
I think it's more than, I think it's the mindset. You know what I'm saying? It's like two completely different, it's obviously completely different states, but like two completely different mindsets and worlds.
Dude.
You know, living from, even me living in Portland, moving to Sacramento and Southern California, it's just all different perspectives and mindsets. So that's awesome.
Portland really held me during a time where I really needed to be held. And I think I couldn't have the gratitude, like I couldn't have made it in New York without spending time in Portland. So I'm like forever grateful for that period, but I'm also happy to now be in New York. It feels really good. The diversity is something that I really, it's unmatched out here. Excuse me. And it's something that I really craved and missed for some time, especially over the last 2 years that I was out in Portland. So it's good. It's all about it. It's all a part of the process, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know I can definitely relate to, you know, when I was in Sacramento and I left when I was 19, I kind of felt like I just needed a new experience and a new start, like yourself, you know what I'm saying? And just, I felt like I was kind of in a box there, and it was time for me to break out of that box. And I ended up moving to, like, the IE area, like Fontana, Rancho, that area. That's where I was at.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
IE love story.
Yeah. But I can definitely relate to you with the diversity in Portland. You know, growing up, especially, like, early 2000s, there wasn't very many of us out there at all, so we dealt with like a lot of trauma. But recently we went back and we had a family member that passed away, and we went out there, and just going outside and walking around out there, like I had that appreciation for, like, man, this is a beautiful place, you know what I'm saying? Just the environment, the weather, the trees. It's just, you don't get this in Dallas necessarily. You don't really get it in LA or the IE especially. So I feel you on that. Like, definitely was appreciative of that.
1000%.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I would love to like dive into a little bit of your upbringing, your story a little bit. I mean, you just kind of gave us half of it, but I'd love for you to talk to us about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so similar to you, I'm a product of like really young parents. My mom was 17 when she got pregnant, and then 18 when she had me, like a month after her 18th birthday.
Hold on. That's crazy. So my mom was 17 when she had me, and the next day she turned 18.
Stop.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I just feel like my relationship with my mom has been such a journey. Because you and I grew up with our moms. Like, we watched our moms grow up.
Facts.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
she's a totally different person now than she was, obviously, when she was 18. And I see her outside of, like, the mother role. And I have more compassion and grace and understanding. So, yeah, I think a majority of my upbringing revolved around me growing up with a young mother. And we first lived in an apartment complex in Koreatown off Beverly and Normandy. She's Guatemalan, my dad's Nicaraguense. And then I ended up moving to the Valley. And yeah, growing up in LA, I think, you know, I had a really great upbringing for the most part. I was like a musical theater kid in the Valley. Like, all my friends were little like Nickelodeon kids. You know, like Miley Cyrus went to our prom. Like, it was very, you know, my mom and I lived in a like a 1-bedroom apartment in the Valley, but then all my friends were like, their parents were like producers that lived in like Encino. You know, it was really interesting. And I think because of that, when it came to like my culture, my Latina upbringing, that was something that I kind of like pushed under the rug, you know, and I feel like I was like extremely Americanized and, you know, I just really wanted to fit in, you know, and yeah, that was kind of my upbringing. And then my dad, he was in my life until I was around like 14, 13, and he and I were very, very close. And then unfortunately, you know, he and I haven't spoken in like, I want to say like 7 years. He was off doing his thing. So I think you add that to the list, and then out comes like a rebellious 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And for 10 years, I think I was just trying to find my way and navigate LA. And then, I think that's when I'm like, I need to get out. Portland.
Yeah. I love that.
So that's a quick summary of my upbringing and like growing up in LA.
I love it.
I now have, so my mom actually got remarried, and then I have 2 little brothers. One's 11 and the other one's 8. And my brothers and I, we have like an over 20-year age gap, but they're kids that I'm like so close to. So that's really cool too, is just like, I think through them, my mom and I's relationship really healed, and she's like now one of my best friends. And I think my life really took a turn when my brother was born, because I was like, wow, like I have a kid who looks up to me now, and this is kind of like the kick in my ass for me to make something of myself. And so that was the journey to me also, founding Shop Latinx.
I was going to say, first off, thank you for being so transparent. That means a lot. So you said, once you had your brother, this was like an eye-opener for you, like to make something out of yourself.
Yes.
Right. So I'd love for you to walk us through how you founded Shop Latinx, and where did this idea come from, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so this was in 2016. Mind you, like growing up, even in my 20s, like I went to Cal Poly Pomona and I majored in communication with an emphasis in journalism, but then I ended up getting kicked out of the school for having a really low GPA, and then I was working like a lot of jobs, like in retail, like as a sales associate at like Nordstrom, a few other places. And then I started working like random gigs. So I got into I was like a bud tender. So it's I was a weed shop girl.
Yeah.
And then I got an internship at like a record label, and I thought that I wanted to work in music. But then I saw that there was like a glass ceiling, and then that's when Uber came to LA. And I became like an Uber driver.
What year was this, like 2016?
2015, 2016, yeah. And during that time, to incentivize riders, they were paying us like $30 to $50 an hour. So I'm like, I have this Prius, I want my autonomy, I still need to figure it out. So I'm just like driving everywhere, and then I became a nanny. So I was just like
doing whatever,
doing what I had to do, and like figuring it out. And so now, fast forward to 2016, I had worked like a wildly long Uber shift, and I got home. I was like renting a room in Burbank, California, and I got in my room, and I remember coming across like a lot of like listicles and articles for Black-owned brands, women-owned brands. And so I opened my laptop, and I remember typing in like, what Latino-owned brands can I support? And I thought that there would be something, like how Cosmopolitan or like Allure have like listicles. And like, here's the top. And there was like nothing. There was like absolutely nothing. And I'm like, that's weird. And then I came across an article that said that we have, at the time, $1.3 trillion in annual buying power in the United States alone. Now it's $1.7 trillion in annual buying power. So I put 2 and 2 together, and I was just like, well, we have so much buying power, and we're loyal to these companies,
Wow.
but like, is there not like a platform that, we can, at the time I was, that we can circulate our money back into, people that authentically represent us and like see us. And so that's when the Instagram account kind of came to life. And it was really me just scouring Instagram and leveraging social to find these like little shops and brand owners whose products really resonated with me. And then what I came to find out is like it resonated with so many other people. And so I was just kind of running this Instagram account for a few years. I was still an Uber driver. I was still a nanny. But I saw that, we amassed tens of thousands of followers and supporters. And what I loved about Shop Latinx is that it was a way for me to connect with other Latinas in a way that I never had before. Similar to, a photographer with his camera, like
Yeah.
that camera is what facilitates that human connection. You know, so for me, I was leveraging what I had created to like
Yeah.
selfishly build my community in a way that like I've never had before, you know, and that's something that I always craved growing up. And this was the first time that I myself like felt really seen through, you know, talking to other men and women and hearing their stories, and then kind of being a vessel to see like how I can help, you know. And I noticed that I would post a brand and a specific product, and I would describe the product, and then, you know, because we had already built that trust from our community, like that brand would get so many sales because we just shouted them out. And it didn't cost me any money to do that, you know. And then over time, it was crazy because I remember having a conversation with my mom. This was when I had my own apartment in Boyle Heights, and I had like a panic attack with her on the phone. And I was struggling to make rent. So I couldn't make rent. And my mom was like, Brittany, please, like just a concerned mother, you know, Brittany, please get a job. You know, it seems like Shop Latinx is really stressing you out. You give so much of yourself to Shop Latinx, but you're not making any money off of this. And please just get a job. You need health insurance. You need this, that, and the third. And even at my lowest, in my head, I was like, Shop Latinx is going to take me to where I need to go. I just need to trust the process, you know, because, and I need to bet on myself because no one's going to give me a high paying job. I probably, given my resume, only qualify for like an entry level position. But with Shop Latinx, I had just learned about the world of VC, and I'm like, you know, I know the statistics of this consumer. No one's talking to them in the way that I am. You know, there's an opportunity for me to turn this into a venture-backed company. It sounded crazy at the time. You know, I didn't have you know, by this time my car had been totaled. So I couldn't drive for Uber. I think I was living off like the car settlement, which was like $12,000. And then I took out a shark loan that like I never repaid. So maybe that was like $20,000 that I had. And it was just slowly getting spent. You know, my relationship with finances, I was just draining. It was just all going down the drain, you know. But I was listening to a lot of podcasts. I had learned about the world of tech. I saw this like Latinos in Tech Summit. So I'm like, I can be like, that could be me, you know? And I mean, yeah, that was really the beginning of Shop Latinx.
So you said a couple things in there. First off, you know, initially Shop Latinx was a platform where you just cultivate other Latinos that had products, that had maybe just products or services or both?
At the time, it was both.
It was both. Okay. So just like giving them a platform, bringing everybody together, which is phenomenal because even though you guys are doing a phenomenal job, we still need, like, in our space, it's hard for me to find Latino entrepreneurs. Like, I have to really dig deep on Instagram to find, you know what I'm saying, us. And they're definitely out there. It's just like, man, what if we had a platform that brought all of us together?
Yeah.
Right? But something else you also said is you said even at your lowest, you still had that belief in yourself that this is going to take me where I need to be. Where did that belief come from? Is it just the passion that you're putting into it? Was it because you're putting so much time, you're like, no, this thing is going to work? And, I mean, you're doing it for so long. There's like a silver lining between, like, man, should I pivot? Should I quit? Should I do something else? But it seems like you never had those thoughts. You know, where did that confidence come from?
I think maybe at the time it was like even a tinge of desperation. But then also it's like, this shit is brilliant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tell people about it. I used to pitch to people in the Uber and tell them to follow me on the Instagram account.
In the Uber.
Yeah, in the Uber. Like, they come in and I like pitch to them.
Yeah.
And I just knew, like, I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, this is brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, look at the numbers, look at the statistics, you know, and then also, you know, our spending power combined with we're the fastest growing demographic in the United States, combined with Latinx entrepreneurship is like rising astronomically year over year. Like that's the entire, and given that I'm, you know, B2B, B2C, like both sides of the marketplace, like we're good, you know, is on lock. And then we have the audience, and all three is growing so quickly, and I know how to speak to them, and I know how to target them authentically. You know what I mean? And I'm like, like, why wouldn't it work? Like, what I need to do is put myself in a position to be a student, you know, and to absorb all this information to be able to provide an experience that people want to support and that people want to pay for. And once I figure that out, I'll be successful.
So when was the turning point for you? What was like the point where you started to, like, you weren't at the bottom no more and you started to work your way up? Obviously, at this point, you got tens of thousands of followers. Yeah. You're like, you can do something with this. You believe in it. So what was that turning point for you? You're starting to learn more about VC, which is venture capital. What was that point for you?
So I'd gotten into this accelerator program in Los Angeles called Grid 110. And that's when, mind you, like, I've always been done really poorly in school, like academically. But now I'm looking back, and it's because, like, that shit was fucking whack.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, you expect me to, like, sit down for 8 hours and, like, care about something fucking you don't care Shakespeare? About. I don't know. Like, and so when I got into this program and I got to, you know, really dig into the business model and the business that I've created and I'm so passionate about, and then at the end of the 3 months, we do a pitch day. I think that was the biggest turning point for me, and that really helped me with my confidence, you know, learning about, I felt like I was in business school, you know, and,
so those accelerator, hold that thought, where can people find these programs at? Like how do you get in these programs?
Yeah. So, I would say just do your research online, but also too, I mean, now I feel like there's so many accelerators, or like Sephora, Target. I've been in a few. There's so many out there, you know.
So these programs, walk us through what these programs and like what's inside these programs.
So there's a curriculum, like a 3-month curriculum. There's some for like early stage, medium stage, and maybe like a later stage. So the first one I was in is like identifying the problem, the solution, the business model, the target audience, you know, like how much do you think you need to raise in venture capital, kind of like you're honing on your founder story, all of that good stuff. And then you have that information so that you can create an investor deck or like a pitch deck.
Pitch deck,
A pitch deck and investor deck are a little bit different.
Okay.
And then you would have like a pitch day where you present all of your findings, and it's kind of like Shark Tank style. And then, you would pitch to your teammates and, you know, investors or people, anyone that's invited. And then I was in another accelerator program last year that gave me $150 in investment in exchange for some equity. And it's with one of the biggest VC firms called
$150?
I mean $150,000.
Okay, I was like, I'll give you that. I'll give you that
$150. So $150,000 in exchange for some equity, and then it's 6 months of like they will introduce you to like the VP of Sephora at Kohl's. They'll have real retail experts. Okay, you created this high level financial model. Like, let's get into the numbers. You know what I mean? They'll, you know, they'll teach you about 5-year projections. You know, and they'll have like industry experts come onto these Zoom sessions and teach you, like really get into the weeds with you. You know, like, okay, fine, great. You got your business, you got some capital. Now, how are we going to take you to the next level where you're ready for your next stage of investment, right? So within venture capital, you have, you know, it starts with friends and family, angel round. You know, I had to skip that because, you know,
you got it.
They don't have it, you know, and then you have pre-seed, seed, series A, B, C, D, E, whatever. And that's kind of like where the Ubers, the Airbnbs, and then the goal for a startup is to either get acquired or to go public. And those are the only two ways that investors can make their returns. So
acquired by another company?
Correct.
And then going public because you're selling shares to the public and
correct.
Got it.
And those are the only ways that like investors and their LPs can make a return on their investment. And so yeah, that's the route that Shop Latinx is going now.
So you said that's the only way. I thought they would get like a percentage of your revenue or something like that. They can't make their money back that way.
That's not typically how it works via
Got you.
venture capital. I have heard of that when it comes to like revenue share, and I've seen that on Shark Tank, but that's not typically the norm. Investors are looking for like high return, like 20x returns, and I believe maybe that's the only way that through acquisition.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy journey. And to answer the question, my life really started to change once I got into that accelerator program, and then of course when I raised my first $1 million.
So let's talk about that. That was one of the things I wanted to jump into. Did you raise that all at once over a course of a period of time? And how did you prepare for that?
These are really great questions, by the way. So, in the beginning, I raised $700,000. That round was led by Precursor Ventures, and the partner of that fund, his name is Charles Hudson. He's amazing. And so I raised $700,000, and then a year later, Charles reinvested and gave me an additional $300,000. So that investment came from him summer of last year, and so that's what totaled the $1 million. So that's how that worked. And then how did I prepare for that? I didn't. Prior to getting that $1 million or the $700,000 in my bank account,
how do you prepare for that?
How do you prepare for it? You know what I mean? And I mean, during that time, I was on EBT and I was on unemployment because of the recession. And then before that, I told you I was like living off some money that I had gotten in an accident settlement.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think I ever had more than like $3,000 in my bank account, maybe one time in my life. You know, so I think that's why I needed to move to Portland. I think I had a freak out. When that money was in my bank account, it's not like overnight. I'm like, oh yeah, like I know what to do. It actually exposed me to a lot of financial trauma that I didn't know I had. Yeah. So I was either frivolously spending money and not looking at the bank account, or it honestly felt like a blur. And I feel like I'm so grateful for this experience because I really had a lot of healing to do in the last year and a half. And that money that went into my bank account really just like set it off. It was like, and let the games begin, bitch. Like, you're going to have to go to therapy now.
Wow. So the reason why I'm saying wow is because, so you're saying all that money hit your account. Most people would think this would solve all my issues and all my problems, but this kind of
exposed my issues.
And that's crazy because, let's just be real. People from our community, you talk about relationship with money. We don't have good relationships with money, right? It's like there's trauma attached to it, right? And it's just, man, I'm just looking at the self-awareness for you to be like, I need to go to therapy to like figure out these issues I have before I start spending. Maybe you started spending it before, I don't know, but man, just the self-awareness. And it's just crazy that you said it kind of opened it up, right? So you get the money. Did you spend any of it, or did you go directly into therapy? Start healing yourself?
So it was already, I think, in therapy a couple months before I got the investment.
Got you.
And when the money hit my account, I think, so the day that I announced the raise, I was like really depressed. And I think I just felt this like weight on my back, like, you know, I gotta make this work. I think this fear arose that like I need to be successful, and I just thought that this was my one shot. Like, this is my one shot to make something of myself, because if I don't, like, I'm going to go back to where I came from. It makes me emotional. Or like, I'm going to have to like drive for Uber again, or like, I'm going to have to, there's a period where, so my car got totaled, and then I had to, before I moved to Boyle Heights, there was this in-between period where, like, I had to live with my mom in Pomona, and there was, like, no room for me, but they tried to make room, and I had, like, a twin bed in my brother's playroom, which used to be, like, my old room, and I was, like, surrounded by toys, and I remember I turned the room, I, like, put a desk in the room, and I was just, like, learning about venture capital. Like, I wish I had a picture of it, because I'm, like, that's like my Steve Jobs, like in the basement, in the garage era. And I just remember like talking to VCs outside, like circling around my mom's pool, like aimlessly, and my little brothers like on their bikes, like nah, 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 you know, and I'm like, shh, like I'm on the phone with an investor, you know, and my mom's like, Brittany, like dinner's ready, and I'm like, sorry, like, you know, having to put, and so that was like a wild time for me. I don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I hear you.
But you feel me?
Yeah, no, I do. Keep going. You're good.
And so what I'm trying to say is, we're talking about the money.
So the day you posted that you raised the money, you're feeling depressed.
I was feeling depressed.
Yeah.
Yes. So So with the money, I felt like I'm nothing. And I felt like I started to associate like my worth, my self-worth with like how successful Shop Latinx is. And I think like once I made my race public, I'm like, oh my gosh, all eyes are on me. Like the pressure is on, you know, and I became super harsh with myself, and I was just like my own worst critic. Yeah.
No, I hear you. I was just gonna say, you know, I go to therapy as well, and something my therapist, because I'm very tough on myself. Like I'm super competitive with myself. You know, I want to win. I want to make what we're doing right now work. And my therapist is like, yo, you got to be nicer to yourself. Like, when's the last time you said something nice about yourself? Right? And I'm like, damn, it's like, it's been a minute. Like, when's the last time you celebrated your little wins? And it's just like, I don't be doing that. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that even this year I'm working on. You know what I'm saying? Like, the last interview I had, I was like telling them, when I go back home after New York, I'm gonna celebrate this, and like, you did that. You know what I'm saying? Figuring out all these logistics and whatnot, getting the guests here. These are little wins that you should definitely celebrate, you know? And that's just something I'm working on.
Dude, 1,000%. You know what's crazy that's helped me a lot is like those little Instagram story memories. And so the woman that runs my social, or Shop Latinx's socials, she sent me this memory of me, I guess it was like last week, 3 years ago. I did like a really cool Nike campaign. And it went public, like at all the Nike stores, all of that. And I was like just telling my story. And she was like, oh my gosh, like you did this? And I'm like, oh yeah. Like, wasn't I supposed to? You know, or like, I think, you know, even when I'm, you know, featured in an article or in a certain publication, I'm like, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Instead of thinking, like, instead of just like celebrating it, you know, and recognizing how like amazing it is to be seen for your accomplishments. And like that journalist reached out to you because she thought you were worthy of like being your story being heard, you know, and written out and like published.
Amazing.
You know what I mean? And I think that we don't do that enough. Like this journey is very special, and it's rare for a lot of people, and it's something that so many people in our community aspire to, you know, do themselves. And I don't, we take it too much for granted. And I would just, I think now, similar to you, like, I'm not, I refuse for Shop Latinx to stress me out in the way that it did last year. Actually, it didn't. I take responsibility.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything. It just
It's
stood
like, I'm just
there.
here.
I'm just here, and
Yeah.
it was me that I was crossing my own boundaries with my company. You know, and to me, that looks like, you know, working past a certain time. Like now, I don't work more than like 5 hours a day.
So I want to question you about that because I 100% agree with you that we should have boundaries. But is there ever a thought like, if I didn't cross those boundaries, would I still be here? Would I have gotten as far as I should have? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I heard the only reason why I asked is because I've heard this. I think my therapist tells me this. She's like, "What's for you shall not pass you." But and I believe that. But in my head, I'm also like, but now I got to go extra hard to get where I need to be. So, have you ever thought about that, or?
I mean, now I am. But I think now that I'm thinking about it, and this is me like real time processing, I honestly think I have no regrets for the journey, but I think Shop Latinx may have been further along because I feel like I was just ramming my head through a wall without taking the time to sit and think and talk to people and be inspired. And I think I spent a lot of time trying to execute on things that had I just asked around or did some more research or fucking took a break and went to sleep and really thought about it some more, I wouldn't have had spend so much money or time on it. So, yeah, I think in hindsight, like, even last year I had to take like a 2-month break to really recalibrate from the burnout that I had caused myself.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I think if I had made boundaries sooner, even with myself and relationships, you know, I'm sure that there would have been people in my life that would be put in their place with respect to me.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a good question.
No, it's interesting to think about because, so I like to bring up sports because I'm a big sports guy. One of my favorite athletes of all time, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. And like all his books, videos, I study them, and he's just a case of an extreme winner, you know. And he was willing to go past any type of boundaries to achieve success, right? So I look at that like, man, like you gotta go for it like that, but also when do I know when to set those boundaries, right? When do I know to just chill out Saturday and Sunday, hang out with my wife? You know what I'm saying? So I think even us talking about it right now, I'm still working through it, to be honest.
Or maybe it's about like finding a healthy balance. You
But
know
that's
what
what
I
I'm saying.
mean?
Is there a balance? If you're trying to achieve something so great as like what you're trying to do and what I'm trying to do, is there really balance? Because you're gonna have to extend yourself to some point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you think about anybody that's done something great, they had to sacrifice and bend over at some point to get there, right? I believe, I could be wrong, you can challenge me on this, but I believe anybody that did something great really had to push themselves to like the limit of, you know, whatever the case is, emotional breakdown, depression, you know. I've seen people like almost lose their marriage for them just try to achieve something, right? And I don't know if I suggest doing that for everybody, but in my experience, the people that hit these amazing milestones and achieve greatness, they got to sacrifice a lot. Like you mentioned Steve Jobs earlier, like I can only imagine what he had to go through for all of us to have cell phones in our pockets, you know? So it's something interesting to think about, and I always go back and forth with it too, to be honest.
I mean, that's a valid like internal conflict to have. you know, and I think for me where I am in my journey is like,
Mm-hmm. I think that's the key right there. I think you just said it. Like, where are you at with your journey? It don't matter what everybody else is doing. It don't matter what Steve Jobs, Kobe did. What?
ooh, yeah, like you're not Kobe, you're not Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like if that's what Kobe wants to do and if that's how he defines success, that is how he defines success.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you and I need to my success looks different to you than you. You know, like
100%.
what success looks like to me now is like peace of mind, freedom, you know, travel, love, you know, and like rest. Like that is success to me, you know, and that can be different to you. And I'm sure the way that I be napping and like sleeping and working from bed, Kobe Bryant would look at me and be like, yo, like get the fuck up, like run, like we're going on a run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And right now, like that's where I am in my journey.
No,
like I'm so tired. Like I don't want to sacrifice anymore. And I think where I am with Shop Latinx, like I'm just happy to be here, you know, and I'm at a place now where I like really trust myself. As a woman, like as a business owner, I trust that the direction that I'm taking Shop Latinx in is one that's going to be very successful. I trust that I made the right decision with the hires on my team. I trust that the investors on my cap table are the investors that I need to take me to this next level. You know what I mean? Like I trust that my decision-making skills or the decisions that I make come from a place of like love and abundance, and it's no longer stems from fear, you know. In order for me to get to this place, like, you know, I had to sit and be still and enjoy times with friends and call my mom and hang out with my brothers and go to their baseball games and really, you know, take long baths and like read a book, you know. So that's where I am. And yeah, and I think for me it was, I see Shop Latinx, like our companies, it's kind of like they're their own person. Like we created them, and now Shop Latinx, it's its own entity. It's literally its own C Corp. And something I've talked about in the past is like, I always say I use this word like sacred reciprocity. So it's like, you know, I created Shop Latinx, and there's this like, it's like, you know, I pour into Shop Latinx, and therefore Shop Latinx pours into me and pays me to have a good life. And so I'm so grateful that I continue to, you know, and it's like a relationship now, you know, and it's like when you cross a boundary, you know, when you overextend yourself, you know, then you start to build that resentment, and then something's like off a little bit, you know. And I had to spend months rebuilding my relationship with my company. And I just refuse to ever get back to that place with SLX. She and I are doing great now, you know? And
no, I love that. I love that you do that. I think more people should be more insightful about not only their relationship with money, but if they do have a business out there, like what is your relationship with your business and your company? Is it draining you? Is it like, if you're at least going all in and you have that mindset where you're going all in, are you at least enjoying the process, right?
yeah.
Man, I love that you like really took a step back and like, yo, I got to make sure I take care of me. Because at the end of the day, a lot of Latinos, we don't do that, right? We don't like put us first and take care of ourselves, take care of our mental health, take care of our physical health. Man, I love that. I love that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, and also with having like a great relationship with Shop Latinx, like it makes me like I get excited to like wake up in the morning and talk about business, and I love to seek inspiration, you know, and I'm working even when it may not look like work, you know, whether it's me walking around
100%.
you know, the city, and I step into a boutique, you know, and I'm like, yo, this is really inspiring, you know, or like this is a Latinx owned, like a Latino owned handbag, like who's the owner? Let me follow her on Instagram, like, you know what I mean? Let me build a relationship. You know, me responding back to like my DMs on my personal account, like that's me building a relationship, you know. And so when you see all parts of what you do as it's beneficial to the business, I feel like you will just have a deeper appreciation and want your business to be successful. And some of the boundaries or some of the things that I won't do so that I don't, hinder my relationship with Shop Latinx is like, I don't really drink, you know what I mean? Like, I don't go out much. Like, my outings are very intentional. Like, I don't really party a lot, like I want to make sure that I'm in a good mental space and I wake up feeling rejuvenated after a good 8 hours of sleep, so that I can be totally just ready to dive into Shop Latinx for those 5 hours that day.
I love that.
So yeah, it also comes with some discipline.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'm the same way. Like, if you guys know me, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do none of that.
Okay.
It's been years since I've done any of that. But I have the same mindset. It's just like, I can't afford to wake up on a Saturday morning hungover, a Sunday morning hungover. Like, for me, like, we weren't given, the everything in the world. We weren't given like a life on a silver spoon and platter, whatever. So to me, every day is an opportunity, and I personally feel like I can't let it slip. I can't be like in the wrong state of mind. Like if I came in here high, we might not have the same quality conversation, which maybe wouldn't reach the right people. So like I got to be on point. You know what I'm saying?
1,000%. I mean, I think of like old Brittany that would like be hungover. Dude, I remember like there'll be times like 21, 22, I'd wake up and there's like an empty bag of like Jack in a Box on my bed. I'm like still like half in my club clothes and like my mascara. Like, ew, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like that's fucking gross.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now it's like I'm in bed by 10. I do my skincare routine. You know what I mean? I get in my nice crispy sheets in my bed. I light a candle, whatever incense, and like I just want to vibe out, and like so I think self-care, whatever that looks like for you, like is also key. And then I also think like self-love is discipline, and for me, I need to get more disciplined. But I am getting like 10,000 steps a day in with just walking around, which has been fun. I also noticed too that when I was living in Portland, I would be like really depressed because the weather. And so I'm like always was searching for dopamine, and I realized I was spending so much money on like thrifting and like just on food, and I was just like even tapping the card was like giving me little shots of like dopamine.
That is crazy.
And so that's something that like my boyfriend called me out on, like, no, we're not gonna go shopping today. Like we're not gonna do that. Like we need to work on the apartment that we just moved into. So I think it's that's discipline. True. Like this, at the top of the year I had a meeting with I now have a Latina financial advisor that we're talking about like our, the Roth IRA and all that stuff, which I'm new to, and it's like, to me, I feel like I'm good, and like now I can go out and have dinner with a friend knowing that like all my shit's good.
Everything's good. No, I love it. Good. No, absolutely. I would love for you to talk. Well, I still have a question about, so I always hear when people raise capital, it's like they raise capital, but where does it go? Like, where is it allocated to? So you don't have to go to the specifics, but like generally speaking, when you raise capital, where do you want to deploy it? Is it marketing? Is it like bringing on team members? What does that look like?
Yeah, so majority is going to go to hiring, and then it's going to be to like towards like building the product. So whether it's like dev costs or getting like a product person to build something out for you. So it'd be like marketing, hiring. I would say it's like like the infrastructure, so. And then it could be towards like, web services fees, like whether it's like AWS, like, Amazon cloud services, Gmail, all of that stuff. And then you typically want to raise for like now they say like for a 2-year runway. And marketing. So whether it's like events, all that stuff for the actual product itself, all that.
Dope. And I'd love for you to touch on Shop Latinx today, like where it stands today. Talk to us about the platform, and then maybe talk a little bit about where you plan on taking it, whether it's the rest of this year or the next 5 years or something like that.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So earlier when you introduced Shop Latinx, you said the word marketplace, and that's a word that I've been using for the last year and a half to describe Shop Latinx as well. And we're going to actually move away from that term marketplace, because when you think of marketplace, you think of Amazon, you think of Etsy, you think of an open platform. Now we're going to adopt the word retailer. And we want to be more of like an e-retailer platform that has curated products. So with Shop Latinx today, and I'm hoping that it will change soon. I just made this amazing hire. When you purchase from 3 different brands, it would come from, you would get your packages
from 3 different
places.
Yeah.
So that's not a very branded, cohesive experience for the customer, right? So because they go on this website and they're expecting, Shop Latinx branded, and then the end result is, they're great products, but it's giving Etsy. So similar to...
Yeah, I've seen somebody compare y'all to Etsy on some article.
Yeah, and it's totally valid, right?
Okay, I don't know about that, but...
I think there was a little bit of confusion, and that was a learning lesson for me over the last year and a half of having Shop Latinx. So mind you, we're like still really early, and so now, like I said, I've talked to like so many retail experts, vice presidents, whatever, and now we're going to be a retailer where we're going to have actually all the products in-house, and we're going to be focusing on the beauty category and then slowly expanding our categories over the year. And that's something that I'm really excited about. I think when I think about the future of Shop Latinx, it's so funny because someone asked me, like, what company or brand did you look at and you were like, oh, like if they can do that, I can do that. And it's Goop. Honestly, it is. Are you familiar with Goop? So Gwyneth Paltrow, it's actually owned by Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's like a wellness marketplace that's a little bit controversial.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say I would say like more polarizing, I guess, which is also controversial, but it's a wellness marketplace that's catered to a specific demographic, which is more of like the affluent white woman in her 40s, but she has like a cult following, and she speaks to this audience where she can sell, like, she recently sold this like vagina scented candle that sold out. Like, it's crazy, like the following that she has, but she has editorial, she has curated retail, she has a Netflix series, and I would love for Shop Latinx to evolve into something like that, where we are storytellers, we have curated products, we tell the stories of the brands, and then when a customer makes a purchase, they get a curated, a beautifully packaged Shop Latinx branded box of top tier, top quality product that's made by Latinas and Latinos.
I love that.
Yeah, and I'm really excited, like I even think about how Shop Latinx, there's so many intersections with like music and entertainment, right? Like Bad Bunny is headlining Coachella. That's huge. Massive. Like, what if down the line, like I would love to have a partnership with Bad Bunny, or someone like Becky G or Carol G. What would it look like to do something with them? And, we become like, a hype beast or Revolve for this young 25 to 35 Latina consumer in the United States. And there's such a huge opportunity right now, like, in Latin America, Mexico City, Guatemala City, Colombia, like there are so many emerging amazing designers, artisans who want to tap into this US market so badly, and they're popping in their respective cities, you know? So what would it look like to introduce those fresh, amazing products into this US Latino market via our platform? And like I said, like I went on a 2-week trip to Mexico City with my boyfriend, and you know, I was like using that time to like rest and recalibrate, but also like he and I were hitting up all the boutiques, taking pictures of the tags. And like to me, that was a form of work, you know, and I wouldn't have gotten to this place had I not really taken time for myself and then sit back and like re-strategize and talk to so many people. And even right now, you know, I'm not a retailer expert. I'm fortunate to, like, Shop Latinx is my Harvard business school. You know what I mean? Like, people get into Harvard and they sit down and they learn about business. I had the incredible advantage to be given $1 million to learn on my own. You know, and through Shop Latinx, something that I'm so passionate about, something that is so near and dear to my heart. And so I got to give myself that grace.
For sure.
But again, I'm at a point now where, you know, I got off the phone with one of my investors recently, and he was like, now you're thinking like a retailer. Like, I knew you'd get here. And it feels really good to get here. And I'm so excited for like the future of the brand partnerships we're going to get, the brands that we're going to get in our marketplace, the new products. I recently made a hire who she was the former vice president of merchandising at Barney's for 25 years. And she's Latina and she's Puerto Rican. And I got her. And she is now consulting with us. And we're re-strategizing everything. And it feels really good to even be able to attract like that type of talent, you know, and the talent that's currently on my team. So I'm just happy to be here, and I'm excited for this next phase of Shop Latinx. It just feels like really clear as day to me now.
Well, Brittany, I can probably talk to you for another like 2 hours, I'll be honest with you. But I don't want to keep the boyfriend waiting. I really appreciate you coming on here. Number one, being transparent with your life, with, you know, some of the finances and your business and whatnot. And I just appreciate your energy and you being here. One thing I always ask my guests before they leave is, if you can have anybody in the Latin Wealth podcast, who would it be? And the only exception is you got to know them. You got to have some type of connection with them.
Okay.
Anybody, if you can recommend anybody to be on the podcast, who would it be?
She's my best friend, and her name is Patty Delgado.
Okay.
She's the founder of Hija de tu Madre. It is a Latina lifestyle brand that is doing incredibly well. She has like over, I want to say like 1 million followers across social.
Wow.
And I mean, she was the one that helped get me that apartment in Boyle Heights. And she and I were neighbors in the same little building. And she and I have just like risen up together, and she is just thriving.
She's in LA?
She's in LA.
For sure.
She would be like so dope to have on the podcast.
Have to connect with her.
Yes,
get her on.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Man, Brittany, much love. I appreciate it.
Likewise.
Where can people find you, reach out to you? Where can people find Shop Latinx if they want to, you know, shop with y'all?
Yeah.
And I'll leave the links to everything in the description of this podcast, but go ahead and talk to the people.
So you can find me at, my personal is at Chavez Brit on Instagram, and then for Shop Latinx, it's just Shop Latinx across all socials.
Yep. With that being said, you guys know where to find us at Latin Wealth on Instagram. Go ahead and share this with one other person or family member that needs to hear this. And on that note, it's your boy Chris, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.